I'm Max Beasley, and you're listening to the 5D Podcast.
This is Andy Berkeley, and you're listening to the 5D Podcast.
Hey, this is Level Up Leroy, and you're listening to the 5D Podcast.
Get yourself ready for an interdimensional sensory experience. Welcome all to the dimension of sci-fi, fantasy, and horror. This is the 5D Podcast.
Hello there and welcome to the 5D Podcast, brought to you by Stuart Zack from 5D-blog.com. Welcome to those of you listening live on Twitch. Also, welcome to those of you listening on iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn and Stitcher. Be sure to check out the 5D-blog.com website for blog articles, competitions and news. And of course, check out the 5D YouTube channel, the details for which can be found on the 5D. So, hiya, how are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm good. I'm all right. I'm okay. We've got a special little show today.
We do.
Again. We're going to be talking to a guy that I've been a fan of for quite a while. Again, is one of those familiar faces when you say, I'm going to talk to, which I'm going to talk today to James Morrison. And, people will say, James Morrison, who's that? And you see the photo and they go, oh, I know him. Because I should have sent the picture to you again, and you went, "Oh yeah, I know."
You see, what I think we need to start doing is we need to start doing. Oh, we've got a little something special planned today. We're just going to have a normal podcast because we spoke to so many interesting guests over the last couple of weeks that we don't really do a normal podcast anymore.
We've done very few, haven't we? I was looking actually on the collection on the library that we've got, and the last sort of 10-15 have been predominantly interesting people, which says a lot about me and you, I guess.
People far more interesting than ourselves.
Far more interested and talented, because the guy that we're going to speak to today, James Morrison, is... I'm going to say this to him as well when we speak to him in a couple of minutes. Really annoyingly talented. Let me read a little bit I just put together, taken from his IMDb and so forth. He's a filmmaker, a playwright, a poet, an actor, a singer-songwriter, and a yoga teacher. He was born in Utah and is a product of Alaska. He has served a theatrical apprenticeship with the Alaska Repertory Theatre. He has an extensive IMDb list of achievements. He's gained a huge following from appearances as CTU director Bill Buchanan 24 TV series, and as Lieutenant Colonel McQueen in the cult TV series or sci-fi series Space Above and Beyond. That's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean,
and I would have congratulated you on getting that tongue twister out. But you did ruin it by having an email notification coming through.
I know.
Colonel McQueen, you almost lost it there when you got to the Colonel.
I know, right? I know. And when it came up, I had a quick glance to see if it was an important email. I did wonder whether or not it might have been James actually messaging saying, I'm waiting, get a move on, because we're doing this just before we speak to him. But no, it was from a clothing company. Wow. Just no free stuff, asking if you want to buy stuff.
That
apparently
is,
the lockdown's over now. Hey, hurrah!
That is a truly cool story. Before we get into it, let's jump in. Let's just talk about what we might be covering next week in the podcast.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I finished The Last of Us Part 2.
Okay.
So I'll be looking forward to talking a little bit like that. A little bit about that.
News a lot, isn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then I think Gemini Man was on the list for us too.
Gemini Man, yeah, which we hadn't seen, but that's now on a particular satellite channel here in the UK. So we'll be talking about that.
And one final thing before you get in there is a re-review of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Skyscraper.
Oh, do we have to do this? Oh man, I thought this was a joke. We're gonna have to rewatch it and then Do we have to rewatch it as well?
Yes.
Re-review. Is it going to be one of our really in-depth re-reviews?
Big time.
Or a proper one? All right, I'll rewatch that. I want to talk, when we do our next one, I want to talk about the Apple event the latest iOS and all the. all the
Sorry, I fell asleep.
I'll be talking for hours about that. You know me. I also want to talk about.
I heard that they've just introduced on-screen widgets, home screen widgets. I mean, do you know, have they not been looking at Android devices for the last, 8 years?
Here we go.
Maybe they finally took some notice.
I will be dealing with those snide remarks in detail when I talk about it properly. I also, on a more serious note, actually, there's nothing much more serious than an Apple event for me, but on another serious note, I want to talk about the passing of two big names in entertainment. So Ian Holm died. Played Ash in Alien. Also was in, obviously, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, played Bilbo Baggins, amongst many other things. He died a few days ago. So I want to talk briefly about that, because he was someone who I adored. Joel Schumacher only died just yesterday, I think. Director. Had a big body of work, things like Falling Down and The Lost Boys, to name but two. Also directed a certain couple of Batman films.
Which one?
Your favorite ever Batman, George Handsome Clooney. He did those two. Yeah, I know, right? So, I say, I mean, and people often go on about the Batman films, which we have done. I know that, but I want to talk about him because he did a body of work that I really like, and apparently was a lovely guy as well. So I want to talk about him. And then we'll talk about maybe some other stuff. So that'll be our next one. Well, we're not going to be talking maybe to anybody in the industry. It'll just be me and you. So sorry, folks, we'll deal with it. So shall we talk with James now? Shall we get him on and...
Let's do it.
Let him do his thing. Okay, all right, let's do it.
Hi, Stuart.
Hi, James. How are you doing, mate?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks.
Well, we've got Zack with us as well, so Zack's my co-host. I don't know if you can see Zack as well. So,
how you doing, James?
Oh, hey, Zack. Yeah, I can see him.
Good stuff. Lovely beard. We've got 3 lovely beards.
Yeah, look at this.
Seriously.
Life in lockdown, right?
Indeed.
Yeah.
So how's it going then? Are you doing okay? You doing all right?
Yeah, we're good here. Thanks. You all good?
Yeah, not too bad.
Good.
Yeah, we're good. It's been like everywhere. It's just been crazy,
It's crazy,
just absolutely bonkers, isn't it? Really, at the moment.
It's like a Rod Serling.
It is the Twilight Zone, isn't it? It's just. I mean, we had a couple of major announcements from our government today with the further easing of the lockdown, for better or worse. So I mean, we're in Scotland, so we're slightly behind England in terms of what they're doing, but. Yeah, it's a crazy time, so we'll see how it goes.
I saw a tweet from a political operative that I follow, who said that people were worried, talking about Italy.
Yeah.
And how their cases are lower now than almost every county in Florida, because they quarantined early and they got
Yeah.
It's the different responses are kind of playing out to tell us how we should respond possibly to the next one or even this one.
Yeah, I mean, we in the beginning we've always been slightly behind. It was kind of Italy, then kind of Spain in terms of Europe. We've had it bad. We've had, in terms of deaths and infections in the UK, really bad. And I was just reading today about the US and like Florida, Arizona, I think as well, big spikes. California
Arizona's
as well.
spiking.
Yeah. So
They're having a big rally there.
And I've been reading a lot of your tweets, and you have an opinion or two. So I think it's safe to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
We've got a lot to talk to you about. So
Okay.
and hopefully you don't mind. But obviously, I'd like to ask you a little bit about a couple of series that you're in, which got a lot of when I put it on my social networking. I'm not kidding. I'm not just saying this because you're here, but we had a lot of response back from people, really excited that we were talking to you. people, fans of 24 and Space Above and Beyond as well, those two particularly, have still got a huge following. So we'll talk about that. There's a few things as well that I want to crack in. So we've only got a certain amount of time on Zoom. So if it stops quickly, abruptly at the end, please, we haven't cut you off. It's just a case of the time may go.
And keep me on track if I start to wander.
I'll just go like that. I'll just do that. I'll just do the.
No, it's okay because I need to be reined in sometimes. I'll talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Oh, go for it. All right. Okay. So where do you want to start, Zach? Did you want to?
I think what we could start with is I had a little look at your website, had a read through some of your thoughts and blogs and things, and there was two things in particular that really stood out to me. One was the incredible hair that you had in the 70s, but two, it was one of the projects that you've worked on. It was the project called Showing Up, the documentary about the audition process. Had some great names in there from the trailer that I looked through. Richard Griffiths, Chris Maloney, Sam Rockwell in there as well, just to name a few. It's such an interesting insight because when we have some guys on here, we often ask them about the auditioning process, and I think from the outside looking in, it's quite nuts because we don't really fully understand the scope of it and the pressure. So, I mean, what kind of inspired you to produce something like that?
Well, from the beginning. Okay, I'll start at the beginning.
Go for it.
I was sitting in the green room at the Old Globe Theater in San Diego. The last year they did Rotating Rec, which was 1985 or 6. I was there, and I was sitting there with a lovely character actor, Tom Lacey. And we were waiting for our, cue we were waiting for the curtain, places call, and talking about auditioning. And he told me a story that it was hilarious to begin with, but it was mortifying. And it was everything that you love in an audition story. And it had a happy ending. He ended up getting the job. And I couldn't help but think I had a lot of time to stand around on stage in this particular production of Richard II. I played Hotspur, so and he doesn't have much to do. So I just stood around thinking, listening, and I ran through this idea of a compilation of actors' audition stories because even then at the time as I was trying to formulate the idea, I knew that everyone auditions no matter what they do for a living. And it just changes in terms of the context, but we all go through that process of putting ourselves out there for what we want to achieve in life, and it also is based a lot on how we react to the rejection and no matter what we do. So I thought, actors are great storytellers. Let's have them talk about this process. And we didn't really know when we started about what the narrative through line would consist of. We were informed by the actors that we interviewed, and the first batch right off the bat, Stephen Spinella and Yule,
friend of 5D, friend of ours,
Jack O'Brien, B.D. Wong, all that first wave of actors sort of just opened up their hearts and spilled their guts about this process that we go through and how they feel about it and how it makes them feel about their creative process and themselves personally as human beings, because that's what we offer. We're at our best. I mean, that's what we do. We're human, and that's so that just said to us, we need to really go with the strength of these people in their ability to reveal themselves, and so luckily we were able to capture a lot of that.
I've just seen the trailer because I think there's a trailer there's a link to the whole sort of background to it and some of the background to what you've just said as well on your website. So I've just seen the trailer, and the trailer is really informative and quite funny. The Sam Rockwell is brilliant when he's talking about the one for ER, and he turns up with the doctor's thing and the syringe. I didn't get the part. It was just this kind of just.
The lengths you go to, and you just have to go on your instincts because you get no real guidance. I mean, there's no, as we've discovered it, as we've shown the film to colleges, and we went to Juilliard and showed it, and at different schools in New York, and NYU school, and all over the place. And there's no real training program for how you for the audition. I mean, there are some rules as we discuss in the film, but you just have to go with your gut. And Sam, as we know, is one of the most courageous and actors out there.
I love his work.
And we all have to do that. We all have to find that.
I was looking through, so it's great. So you've got a lot of the actors and the images on there, and if you click on the actors, it's got a little bit of what they talk about in just written down. And it was quite strange how many that I clicked on seemed to enjoy the process. So quite a few said they hate it. What's your own opinion in terms of yourself? Do you enjoy it, or is it?
Oh no, I hate it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it depends. I mean, you walk into a room with people who understand what you do, and they get the relationship between you and the material, and themselves with you in the process. That's enjoyable. Yeah. But you never know what you're going to get. I mean, you always walk into the room with a little giddy, because you just don't know. It's like swimming in a pond that has alligators in it, but
just don't know where.
Alligators are having lunch somewhere else in another pond that day. But then sometimes you'll walk in there and there are beautiful mermaids and lovely flowers and lilies floating and stuff, and it's beautiful. You just never know.
Does it get easier?
You have to yourself into the pond,
Yeah. Does it get easier once you've got like a body of work behind you? Do you feel like the audition process gets a little bit easier?
Personally, no. I think it gets harder. I mean, some of our finest actors who aren't called upon to audition anymore, of course, because they just get offers. They get terrified of it. I mean, we heard stories, and I won't name names, but they just go, "Oh my God, what? I have to do that again?" And because it's a different animal. I mean, I think the people who love it just are able to. I can't even begin to psychoanalyze that. It's just too weird to me. But I mean, I'm not that good at it. I've got a lot of jobs from auditions, but I don't feel I'm very good at it. So I guess that's why I hate it.
I personally, because I've never been an actor in my life. I've had job interviews where you often find it's kind of, I find myself saying and behaving in a way that I wouldn't normally do. It's all the impression management stuff that we do and that sort of thing. And people do, we judge other people before, even if they don't know you, they'll probably make your mind up within a few seconds of you walking through. It's a psychological thing. But I just could not imagine having to put myself through, that. I'm too much of a, just...
Well, I mean, I talk of Powers Booth, for instance. Powers Booth. Yep. He's a wonderful actor, and he was on 24 for a minute. And I spent, when we were shooting it, I sat in his trailer with him, and we smoked a cigar, and we talked about the project. And I said, we'd love to interview you for this. And he said, I auditioned so poorly. If I had to audition for my work, I would never work.
Yeah.
Luckily, he got to the point where they just started offering him stuff, and he was such a presence, and his voice was so amazing.
Yeah.
Everything about him that that could happen to a guy like that. But and so we never interviewed him, but he did tell me a great story that sort of helped me through the next every audition I go to. Actually,
go for it. Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
He said, he was a young actor working in a restaurant and as a waiter, and he was talking to another older waiter there that had been there forever, and he told the guy, I have this audition. Can I get off early? And he said, yeah. But let me give you some advice before you go in. And it was the older actor talking, because he used to be an actor.
Okay.
He said, when I used to audition, it helped me if I just thought, you walk into that room and those people are sick. I mean, they are deathly ill. And you can cure them. And he said, it's just like shifted his whole mentality about the process. Right. And that's really an amazing way to say, and this is what I've been taught and learned over the years, is that, you go in to be of service.
Mm.
And if you can do that, well, anywhere you go, really. It's just your way of bringing the light. You go and say, here, listen, I know you need this part cast. I'm the guy for it. I'm the person for it.
Yeah.
Let's get after this, and here's what I'm going to do. If you want me to help you out, here's how I'm going to help you.
That's a great story.
That's a really good attitude instead of going in with all that other stuff.
Yeah. I guess. I mean, I was told many years ago. I used to get really nervous for just job interviews, and a friend of mine said to me, and they meant it in the best way. They said, "Oh, just go in, imagine the person that's interviewing you naked. Just that will relax you." Oh, and so the next interview I had, it was a really overweight guy, and it was like, it was just the worst piece of advice I could have been given ever. And I didn't get that job either, so there you go.
Well, the best way to look at it is like my acting teacher Harry said. He's in the film too, and he just is all about the story, and this is the way I think you should approach the work anyway. It's just all about the story.
Yeah.
If you make it about the story and you're so full of that, the conditions and circumstances of the story and who you are and what you want and everything that serves the story, then there's no other room for all that other stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's the best way to go. If I'm full of that stuff and I walk out of there going, you know what, we had a communion in service of the story, it doesn't even matter if I get the job, frankly.
Where can it be seen? Because I know, is it available via iTunes? You can see showing up, or is it?
We're going through I'm not sure how long it's going to be there, because we're going through a phase now where everything's shifting and
yeah.
So I think it's still on Amazon and iTunes and all the VOD places.
Because I definitely want to catch it. Because it sounds, and I don't mean this. Please, I don't mean this in any disparaging way. It doesn't sound like an exciting concept, but it really is a really interesting thing to watch. And as I watched the trailer, and it's something that I've always often thought about. And we've talked to a lot of guys who are lucky enough to talk to people, and we always ask them, like as Zach said, about the process and audition. And it's a really interesting thing, even if for someone like me who's not an actor, who will never be an actor, and you say you show it to schools and colleges and that sort of thing, but I think it's a really interesting thing to see. Apart from that, it takes away a little bit of that mystique.
We've had sociologists, lawyers, photographers. I mean, I could go down the list of professions that people that have watched it and said, this is how I get my work.
Yeah.
You walk into a room with people who are looking for what you have to offer, you offer it, and then you leave, and then you either get it or you don't. I mean, it's really, that's the simple, they're all auditioning for everything. Garofalo, oh my God, I've forgotten her first name, this is embarrassing. A stand-up comedian, when we interviewed her, she said, "Yeah, everybody auditions for everything."
Yeah, which is true.
I hope I'll remember.
if it comes to you during this, just shout it out. It'll be fine. It'll be okay.
If I'm looking at my phone here, I'm going.
Well, why are you looking at your phone? I'll just very briefly talk. Okay, because I went out doing a bit of research about you, and I mean, geez, I think
Janine Garofalo. I was going to say
Janine.
Oh yeah.
I love her. I'm sorry, Janine. I'm sorry.
If you want, we'll edit it out. We'll leave it in if with your apology. It's okay.
Leave it in. I'm the world to see.
We're only human. Listen, I was going to say really how annoying you were in a way, because looking at you, so annoying. Because I mean, filmmaker, playwright, poet, actor, singer-songwriter, yoga teacher. Are you actually going to give the rest of us a chance to maybe do something? Because I mean,
I'm just, listen, I'm just auditioning for everything I can possibly audition for. If they let me do one of those things, I'll be happy.
Is it, on a serious note, is it just the creative individual within you just trying to express yourself in any way that you can? Or is it a case of you're never satisfied with one thing and you want to, what is it? So many things.
I get bored with something and I want to do something. Or I've just got too much time on my hands, which is evidenced in my attention to Twitter and Facebook, I'm sure. But mostly I think it's just, my need to be doing something that expresses a different part of myself.
Okay. I mean, so where the heck did the circus clown and wire walker come from then as an expression? Because is that a true story then? Is that how you started off in terms of career?
Well, I did a production of Godspeed. I've always been I've always admired. I've never been frightened of clowns, or I always loved them when I was a kid.
So did I. Yeah.
And I loved the clowns like Red Skelton and Buster Keaton. And
I'm a big Harold Lloyd fan. I love Harold Lloyd.
I loved when I was young and when I got into my sort of high school, college years, and I just thought it was incredibly. It would have been really romantic to go off and join the circus. And I was searching, I think, for something that didn't exist, which is quite often the case.
Yeah.
I was looking for Cirque du Soleil, which of course didn't exist in the 70s, and instead I ended up in Satan's, wild animal circus of agony.
Is that the official trademark name?
That's what I call it. And it was terrible, and I learned a great lesson, but it prepared me for Hollywood.
That would be a great name for a book. You should save that and have that for your life story, or, for your tagline or something.
Yeah.
As well, did I read as well? You spent quite a lot of time here in the UK back in the 80s, was it? So you were.
I was there in the mid 80s. Yeah, I was there. I worked at the in Edinburgh at the festival at the Traverse Theatre.
Okay.
I hope it's still there. It's been there forever.
I haven't been down for a while, so I'm guessing it probably not open at the moment. But yeah.
Yeah, right. And then we moved to the Donmar warehouse. I think they just call it the Donmar Theatre now.
Yeah.
In Covent Garden. And then we were at the Riverside Studios with a play by Emily Mann called Still Life.
Am I right in saying that you were also a lecturer at Bournemouth College? Is that correct?
Yeah, I had a friend there who was a fan of Space Above and Beyond, actually, who called me over to lecture there, and in fact I was leaving. I had a flight planned for September 12th.
Wow. Yeah.
That was the last time I was supposed to go there.
Wow.
And of course, the world changed, and I didn't go.
Yeah, wow, man. I mean, when I saw the Bournemouth thing come up, because I lived in Bournemouth in the 80s, I wondered because I was in 86, 87, I lived in Boscombe, which was just outside, kind of, sort of Bournemouth. So it was interesting to see that you spent some time. What did you think of your time? Was it informative, or was it, in terms of the UK in those days?
Well, I loved London when I was there, and Edinburgh. I mean, my family's from Scotland.
Yeah.
So just to go there, and especially you go there as a working actor, as an American actor working. That was kind of a dream come true too. I mean, listen, I always say that about a dream come true, and I even at my age now, after having done this for 45 years, that still happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're driven, people who are driven into this world of, make believe. I mean, how else do you term that other than it's just making dreams come true?
Yeah.
Not just for yourself, but also for the people who watch what you do. I mean, you embody these fictional people and you pretend that you're that person, and people watching you go, oh, wow,
well, I mean,
well, that's one thing I liked about the Showing Up documentary, because from our perspective, you got these people in films and TV, and they're up on this pedestal. But then you watch something like the Showing Up, and you realize that they're humans too. It brings it all down to earth and gives a little bit more of a connection to it.
Well, that's what we wanted to do when we saw as I said before, when we saw these actors come in, and we didn't want to do a how-to film, how-to audition. I mean, there's no because. Who cares, really? I mean, people might, and they think, what's the quick fix, and how do I get the job, and all that stuff. But you get the job by being the human being that they want to see in their project when you walk in that door. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really, they want to see your humanness, and And that's what I love about, my teacher, that I still revere and ask for advice to this day. I mean, he says, don't think like an actor, think like a human.
It's interesting you mentioned about touching people's lives, because I mean you've had a number of roles. I mean you've got a huge body of work. Like I say, you've been in the business quite a few years. How does it feel when you probably still get stopped in the street? I'm guessing people saying, "Hey, Bill," or something for 24 or whatever it might be. People get sort of touched in very different ways. And as I say, when I mentioned on my social networks that we're talking to you, huge body of people saying, "Oh, I mean, I've got a load of things that were mentioned." People asked me to, say to you about, your character, Bill Buchanan, was their favourite character in 24, and they really resonated with what you did, and it was really authentic, and that sort of thing, and genuine stuff. How does that kind of feel because it's quite a long time ago now? It's what is it, 10, 15 years since those were out, but yet you'll still get people, I'm guessing, wanting to talk about, like we do, about 24. It must be a strange thing as an actor to have to kind of put yourself back as you were 10 whatever years ago for something that for me and other people, for now it's still important. Is it weird? Is it strange?
What you're talking about is fame.
Yeah.
And to whatever degree somebody has it, and there are varying degrees of it, certainly. I mean, you need to remember that what I'm thinking of is that my favorite thing, two favorite things that I go by when I think about this. Krishnamurti talks about wanting fame and wanting to be famous, and how that starts to twist your we're conditioned to want to be famous, or if we seek that, we desire that. It brings up all these desires that really have nothing to do with what we do. I mean, if you're, and the next thing is what I heard Paul McCartney say about it. He was talking, arguably, I mean, if there's a list of the most famous people ever,
it's pretty up there.
Right?
Yeah, it's pretty there.
Yeah, he's at the top of that list, and he just says, there's this famous guy, and then there's me.
Yeah.
It's and I think, and I just went, wow, that's the best way to look at it. I mean, it's separate from, we're not our job. In other words, he's as much as he loves what he does and wants to do it all the time, he's that guy that's, like you said, he's on the couch flipping around watching TV, in his jammies or whatever. That's a different person than the famous person. And yet you hear his humanity in his songs, and hopefully we bring our humanity to our work.
Well, I think that's the thing.
People to it.
Yeah, I think that's what sort of comes through with a number of actors that we've been lucky enough to speak to, is just that authentic approach. I mean, it's because we get engrossed in a particular program. 24 is a great example, because I think you joined season 4 was it? I think that you joined day 4, so it'd been around obviously 3 seasons beforehand, and so this big cultural sort of thing that had probably taken place by the time you joined. It was part of the cultural zeitgeist, and yet I've talked to actors before that have joined shows. I think talked to Xander, Berkeley, similar sort of thing with The Walking Dead, where you hadn't really watched much of The Walking Dead, wasn't aware too much of it. Were you the same with 24 then? Yeah. Were you aware? I mean, you're aware of it, but not necessarily.
Yeah, no. In fact, I turned down the audition.
Really?
Yeah, because I had planned a vacation to Hawaii with my family, and we used our frequent flyer miles.
Definitely, yeah, it's good reason.
And I just said, I can't do that. It was right. It was right before Christmas. I mean, it was right before everything shut down. And I just said, I'm sorry, I'm leaving Thursday, the day of the audition. I can't, And my manager, insisted. It just said, no, this show you don't understand. And I said, I know, I've heard it's great, but I've got to get to Hawaii. And so he called me back and he said, listen, I found you another flight.
Really? Wow.
Send Riyadh and Seamus, my wife and son, on without you, and then join them Friday. And I said, wow, you really... He said, look at the episode. I'd never watched it.
Never seen an episode at all?
No. And so I watched the episode of the screener that I got for the SAG Awards, and I don't know. And it was the one where Jack shot one of my predecessors in the train yard. He shot him in the head.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And it was so well made, as you know. And I just said, wow, these people will do anything. I got to be on this show. And so I just went in, and everybody that I knew from years and years of doing these rooms was there. And I ended up, and I went to Hawaii and didn't hear, of course, because everything shut down.
Yeah.
When I finally heard, and I think we were there for a week and a half, and then I talked to my manager and I said, well, they want you, everybody wants you, but the network won't let you do it because you're on another Fox show right now, and I was doing something else as a recurring character. I didn't have the contract. And so I said, oh, wow, bummer. So I'll try to enjoy my vacation. Anyway, that was what that was. So he wrote a letter to them, and everybody said, okay, yeah, let him do it. If he really wants to do it, let's let him do it. That's what it sounded like to me. If he wants to do it, yeah,
let him do it. Yeah, give it a go.
So then I went in and then I got it, and they just said, make him look different than I looked on the other show. That's why I had the dark hair. And
Yeah.
They started with a beard too, and it just, I couldn't talk like this because I couldn't move my mouth, and I just said, I'll just dye his hair. So
was it easy to fit in then? Because I'm, like I say, a lot of the cast and crew would have been together, quite a while now. Did you find, was it an easy thing just to slip into, or
no?
No,
I don't want to go too deeply into the story about that, but I had a rough time. I was just there episode to episode as a guest star.
Yeah,
and they were, I think, they had just lost an actor, and they were trying to fill that spot with some kind of, they had to scramble to rewrite stuff, and they were testing me, I think, and there were a couple of moments where I didn't exactly pass the test,
right.
For various reasons.
Okay.
Nobody's fault.
Yeah.
It just was. The pressure was high, and just from watching the show, that the stakes were always high, and so that energy sort of permeated the environment in a good way, because it translated to great stuff on film. I think.
It's one of the my favorite things ever. Part of me often at the time, and I don't know whether or not I misjudged it or misread it, but it was accused in some area of kind of being a little kind of right wing almost. The politics were very in some cases black and white. I don't know. For me, I just thought it was a great action show, and it was incredibly well made. And it was so different for its time. Were you aware of the fact that your character was going to leave in the way he did? Did you have any say in that at all, or?
No, nobody knew.
Yeah.
They were all talking about stuff that I wasn't privy to, and as the show progressed, I just kept saying, if I never go upstairs, and if they never see me up there, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The bosses.
Yes, the bosses.
If they never see me, in the hallway, or if I hide from them, maybe they'll forget that I'm on the show, and so they won't fire me. I really just thought, if I keep a low profile and just do my job, and I think that's what ended up being, Buchanan's thing, was that he was just he was a solid worker and an honest guy, and
you talked about the fame thing. Was that apparent for you then at the time? Did you feel the effect that the show had at the time that you were in it? Was it something that you dealt with okay, or did you not even, were you not aware of it too much?
I did not until I did 10 episodes in season 4, and then it wasn't until they invited me to join the cast in season 5 as a regular and they did it in a quite lovely way, and it was really satisfying, and it was nice. I mean, I felt really welcome, and but then I went, wow, this is well, and then the 5th season, of course, was the year that we won the Emmy.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, there was an awareness of where it was in the sort of in the zeitgeist.
Yeah, the zeitgeist. Yeah, and it still resonates now, even some years later. It's still, as I say, lots of people wanting me to ask you stuff. A lot of them, are, basically saying, did you, which I've already asked you, did you have any say in how your character's role would finish? Quite a few people want to know how it felt in terms of the workload that you had. Did you find it was a kind of laborious process? Was it a kind of stressful process, or was it quite laid back?
Well, I mean, laborious and
stressful.
When you're doing the thing you love.
Yeah.
And it seems silly to have to say this, but we need to be reminded. It's just not work.
Yeah.
It's not laborious. I mean, there are moments where you go, "Oh my God, I've been waiting here 8 hours. When are you going to get to me? Oh, you're not? Oh man, that stuff."
Yeah.
But that's just that happens with your family at home. So
that's just a lot.
Yeah. So I mean, but no, when you're doing what you love, and I was doing what I loved, as it turned out, as we grew to know each other and spend time with each other, I really loved the people I worked with over there. They were beautiful, and the energy and the I mean, the camaraderie and for nothing illustrates it like this. I mean, for 1 year we went on vacation to Hawaii again. And we went with like 5 people from the crew.
Yeah.
And we stayed in the same hotel. So that was, I mean, you don't go on vacation with the people you work with.
No, I don't.
Usually, you try to get away. That's why you're going on vacation, because you want to get away from them.
Would you have stayed longer on the show if you could have done? I mean, it was a great way to go out. I mean, if you're going to save your friend.
I didn't want to leave. Okay. I knew that I would. I knew that when you sign on that you're going to.
Yeah. I mean, nobody lasted forever, except it's just Kiefer lasted forever. The rest of them were expendable.
And Mary Lynn.
True. Yeah. True.
Yeah.
What? Go on. Sorry.
No. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
They handled it really well, though. I mean, Howard Gordon just called and said, I hate to. This is the phone call I hate to make.
Wow. Okay.
And I said, I've loved every minute of it. And so, but I did get to actually say, could the death have something to do with how I feel about torture, or how I, meaning Buchanan.
Yeah.
And so that all played in it, and they were, and they gave me a great death.
It was a great one. It was so Zach and I were talking just before we were talking to you, and I was just. Zach was saying, said to me, tell us about, let's just go over again the how the Bill's, the Bill character. And as soon as I said it, he went, oh my God, yeah, and it was kind of, we almost relived it before we were speaking to you, because it was brilliant. It was really good TV. If nothing else, it was just,
Yeah, it was satisfying.
It was satisfying, yeah. Can I talk to you about Space Above and Beyond, because that's a weird situation for me, because I watched it when it first aired over here in the UK, which would have been around about the same time as the US. Mid-90s, would that be? I think something.
Yes.
94, 95.
95, 96.
And for me, for the life of me, and I've read a lot about it, I cannot understand why it just lasted the one series, because it was, well, maybe it didn't, because of the reasons why it was very different from anything else that was around maybe at the time. What are your thoughts on it? Because it's still got a really big, if you can have a big cult following, it's got a strong cult following. A lot of people loved it then and still love it now.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Because it was a great piece.
I know it was as everything is, politics.
Yeah.
Politics between the studio and the network, and
because it was a Fox show, wasn't it? It was
a Fox show,
yeah.
And it was a Fox network show and a Fox studio show.
Right.
But also, they just didn't know some people liked it over there, some people didn't, and they wanted it to be something that it wasn't, and they hired a couple of, you know, a brilliant team of showrunners that, you know, that wanted to do something different. You know, I mean, it happens quite a lot, and I don't know. I mean, I thought the combination of the World War II feel was and futuristic stuff was brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it had a great combination. I mean, yeah, it was around mid-90s, so you would have had, and at the time it was, you had the Star Trek, I think Next Generation, you know, you had the various series, you had Babylon 5 possibly, so you had quite a lot of sci-fi being made. It was pretty much a, you know, a bit of a golden era, but I think the problem with Space, I think a lot of people probably didn't know where to fit it, because it was a kind of action space, but also quite a military feel to it, you know, as well,
and it, philosophical and consciousness of the, you know, the human condition, and I mean, you know, as good sci-fi is, but also they just didn't know where to put it in terms of scheduling. I mean, people couldn't find it or see it. It was a weird time slot.
Yeah, I think it was.
Never really got the audience that it deserved.
No, it was hidden away on one of the satellite channels over here, and it would be on, say, like 8, 9 o'clock at night, and then changed to a different time. Yeah. But I remember it as being a really intelligent piece, because, I mean, there was, you know, quite a large ensemble cast, and there was a lot of character development, and your particular character kind of changed quite a lot, or not, but sort of was expanded upon throughout, you know, the series, and I thought, you know, I generally think it could have gone on, you know, to a whole, you know, heap of areas. But as I say, it was one season was cancelled. How did you find out about that? Was it something that you thought was going to happen, or was it just, you know, series finished, you get the call?
We heard rumblings, but nobody knew. And then I was watching the last episode at my house with Joel De La Fuente, and we saw him die.
Yeah.
And I was so flabbergasted that I just burst out laughing, because it, I mean, in a shocked way, and I looked at him, and his jaw was on the floor, and so I think that's how we found out. I mean, because we just went, well, we can't come back with you gone.
Oh my God.
And then the girls disappeared, you know.
Yeah.
I say girls.
Yeah.
You know, but they did. They just fell into the planet, and then, you know, we sort of put two and two together. It's foggy now. I mean, we may have gotten a call from Glenn Morgan. I'm not sure, but I don't think we did. We knew when we were watching it. No, but we put. You know, it's not that hard to put two and two together.
Yeah, I guess so. And it's not the only series that's ever happened too. You know, history of TV is littered with series that were cancelled mid-season, not just you know, at the end of the season. You mentioned that you watch yourself. Can you watch yourself? You know, again,
I know you were going to ask me this because I said that, but also, you know, it depends what it is. And you know, the other thing is, I'm not saying they're liars. I will say that
but they're liars.
It's harder. I think it's hard for some actors to admit that they watch themselves.
Right. Okay.
Because they feel like it's more romantic, or they're above it if they don't, or for whatever reason. But you know, I've learned a lot from watching myself. And
you know, many actors have said to me that you know, some have said they don't, and I'm not saying that I would call them a liar, but I do. I think probably do, not for any, you know, sort of narcissistic reason, but I think it, you know, just like you said, to see how you can improve, and just out of interest, you know. So I think.
Well, and it depends on the project too, and but yeah, I mean, I've learned a lot about filmmaking too.
Yeah.
I mean, I was there. I knew what they shot. I knew, you know. And I want to see how I love to sit in the editing booth with when they're cutting something too. And if I'm in it, I find myself going, I'm going to bite my tongue and not say, why are you cutting away from me here? I want to find out what they're thinking that makes them do that in terms of the overall thing, and as a storyteller. So, I mean, I'm as vain and as the next guy, but I don't think it has anything to do with vanity, really. I think it has to do with, can I see where I'm doing too much, and can I do less?
Yeah.
Can I trust that the thought is enough? And yeah, as it turns out,
Is it the same? Is it the same with the music then? Because I mean, you've made, as far as I'm aware, you've got 2 albums that you've done. I think you made 2 albums,
right.
Both of which again you can hear excerpts on your website. I'm not just saying this. I'm really not. But you can listen to samples of each of the tracks on the website, and I liked what I heard. It's kind of got I don't want to liken to anybody, a definite kind of singer-songwriter sort of, I don't know, early Tom Waits vibe. I don't know. Maybe you probably totally disagree with that. There's one track, Hell's Door Call, which I really liked. So it was really cool. So can you listen back to your music? I mean, where did the music come from? Is it something that you've always had in you, or is it just another thing that you wanted to try?
Yeah, no, I've been playing guitar since high school, and nothing serious enough to get really, really good at playing guitar, but I've always loved putting words to music, simply put.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, speaking of Sir Paul, his influence on my generation. When I was 10 years old and I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, the world changed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not too much of a dissimilar age to yourself. The Beatles have always been around for me. They're just part of the, and I'm a big Beatles fan. I've got all the, I bought all the vinyl stuff back in the day. When I went down to visit London for the first ever time, the first thing I did, I went over to St John's Wood, and I did the walking across the crossing, did all that Abbey Road and stuff, and saw the stuff outside. It is still such a huge cultural impact, isn't it? Even now, it's strange that even now in 2020, it's still.
Oh, it'll never end.
It'll never end. It's
generations from now, providing we survive this.
Yeah, indeed.
I mean, they changed everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of your music, have you performed live? Do you perform live, or?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and is that obvious question? But is it different from acting in terms of how you feel? Do you get more nervous doing this, or?
Oh yes. Yes, I do.
Why?
And
Why?
It's not different than acting, because what I found is, in order for me to not be nervous, like I said before, I have to. I'm playing the role of a singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
And these are the stories that I'm telling, and I'm just, instead of doing a monologue, I'm doing a song. I'm singing the story. So I have to. I had to find a way to, especially when I'm by myself. If I'm with a band, it's a different thing, because it's an ensemble.
Yeah.
And in fact, I just did a solo play that I wrote, and oddly enough, I didn't feel. It's based on something that happened to me and my family, but I didn't feel nervous at all when I did it. I felt like, this is the play. Here I am. This isn't who I am. I've never felt that before. So I don't know, all this, the psychology of nerves and excitement. Because we confuse the two.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I'm at my best, I think I'm able to go, okay, I'm just excited to do this, and that's what's making my heart pound, and
I just played a video game that had an interesting take on fear. It explained it, one of the characters, where they actually said that if you're scared, you're actually at your best. That's the fastest you could ever run if you're scared. Just the strongest that you could be if you're scared. So it's something that you should actually use as a weapon, rather than something that you should actually be scared of. So fear is actually.
I think providing that you're healthy, psychologically healthy to begin with, and you're able to discern the difference between. Because then we have to examine, the idea that you're always either acting out of love or out of fear. And if you're acting out of love, hang on, I've got to plug in my computer. I'm gonna die. If you're acting out of love, of course, you know. Can you excuse me while I plug this in?
Yeah, no worries. No worries.
I'm acting out of fear that I'm going to lose you guys.
That's fine. You'll move faster.
Yeah, there we go. You don't know. I know what you're saying, and I'm probably putting too fine a point on it. But if there's a fear of not getting something you want, and you act out of that, which happens in auditions and performance too. I mean, who's going to see me? Am I going to be? Is this going to catapult me? Is this job going to change my life? Am I going to be able to pay my rent? I can't pay my rent. How am I going to survive this if I don't get? You know, I'm all that stuff. So if you just go, because I have a great over the years, I've lost auditions. I'm sure I've lost jobs because I was too nervous in the audition.
Yeah, yeah.
And I couldn't get centered, and I was possibly even shaking and quaking because I just thought, what? Some days you're just off.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. This is true. In terms of what you've done, whatever it is, what are you most proud of? What's the thing that you can maybe look back on personally? You think, actually, that was either my best work or most rewarding work? Is there anything that you could identify? Or have you not done it yet?
No, I mean, we're all just a product of what we've done, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how we, in this context, you're only as good as the last thing you did, they say, you know. I sort of feel like, in terms of, you know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm grateful for a lot of stuff. So I guess the thing that I'm most grateful for would be that I was able to do what I did on 24 in terms of, however, you know, Twin Peaks was pretty awesome.
I was going to ask you about Twin Peaks as well, because I mean
that was, speaking of dreams come true, that was.
Well, I mean, when the first series came out, which again I can't remember now, what was it, 90s or whatever. Obviously, before social networking and the internet and everything, that was again a cultural thing, and I adored that. When it was being remade, I did wonder, whether or not it would meet the same, and I must admit I was really happy with how the return. Well, it was very strange. Again, it was. Were you a fan then of the first series? Was it something you thought, oh my god, this is just like kid at a party now?
I've been a fan of David Lynch's work since Eraserhead.
Oh god, I love Eraserhead, yeah.
And that sort of changed the way I look at the world in terms of filmmaking, and you know, I know that's a strange thing to admit, but. You know, I will say, though, in answer to your question, and also Mark Frost and they work together, I mean, they just created a wonderful world. Such weird, the scope of the weirdness and beauty of that world.
Yeah.
In the first series. And then I thought, well, this is going to be darker and weirder now because they're both, you know, mature.
Yeah. They've
matured, you know, we all have. But I will say the thing that I guess that I'm most when we're able to submit completely to something and just disappear into it and we have no other concern but the work. Those are the things I'm most proud of, and they happen in the strangest places for you know, when you're ready to do that, I guess, and. But the solo piece that I just did, we developed it at the Ojai Playwrights Conference too. Yeah. I was just able to say, I don't care what anybody thinks. I'm just telling this story, and hopefully it'll benefit someone. If I can be of service to someone by telling it, then great. But I've got to get this off my chest. You know?
So what's the plans then for James Morrison? For the future, then, what's in the pipeline? Do you know what you're going to be doing next, or what's going to be happening?
No, you know, it's such a strange time for all of us.
Yeah.
I mean, everything's shut down, and I've always been, you know, you hear a lot about create your own content in this business.
Yeah.
And it's been easier over the years to be able to do that with things like this.
Yeah.
And we've been doing Zoom scenes in the work that I've been doing with this group that I'm involved in. But I think that's the key to going back to everybody auditioning, for a living. I mean, I think we all have to create our own content.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's easier and easier now, but we can't wait for somebody to give us an opportunity anymore like we used to.
And if anything, I mean, I'm not saying there's a good side to any of what's happened necessarily, but there's been some, over the last few months, some great stuff online, people creating material, and it's been, if there's one good thing that's come from all this is, how important things like art is, because creating something, and people create some brilliant thing.
We had Spencer Garrett a few weeks ago with his quarantine TV on Instagram.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, series, just series made, like you say, remotely, through Zoom and that sort of thing. You've got a whole heap of stuff, a lot of it, political stuff as well. That's really interesting as well. The life of me, I can't remember the woman who does the voiceovers of Trump. I can't remember her name now. It's gone. Sarah, yeah. She's brilliant. Honest to God,
brilliant.
The funniest thing. She's just released another one, I think, just today, which is just so funny. It's
the interview with the son, between the son and him.
Yes. I mean,
what 3 months ago, everybody said, "What Zoom? What's Zoom?"
I know, right? Yeah.
How do you work that? And now 3 months later, we're all experts and we're making content and we're doing scenes and putting it out in the world. We're putting out some stuff soon, and I'll keep you posted on that.
Please do, please do. Yeah. So, listen, James, I've taken a lot of your time up today. I do appreciate it, because I know it's still fairly early in the day for you. It's kind of 8 o'clock here now, so I do appreciate you kind of putting the time by. I appreciate you putting up with me stalking you on Twitter and all this stuff and saying come on the show and stuff. So
you've been a nuisance, but you're a good kind. Thanks, man.
You may not get rid of me yet. I might stick around or whatever. It's
okay.
But no, I really appreciate your time, and just keep doing what you're doing, man. I mean, even if it is annoying that you're not really leaving much for the rest of us, just keep doing all that stuff. It's so cool.
I know.
All right, man.
Thanks, Stuart.
You take care.
Thanks.
All right, buddy.
Perfect.
All right, thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.